I want to report that I made a big boo-boo. I talked this morning with President-elect Donald Trump, and he reminded me. He likes draining the swamp. I mischaracterized it the other day. He intends to drain the swamp. He even describes it as DTS. He thinks taking on Boeing and the price is an example of draining the swamp. And so I want all of you to know I goofed.
Last night, I shot a special report for the nightly news dealing with the headline from CNN as well as the National Review claiming that Donald Trump was backing off on draining the Washington, D.C. special interest globalist lobbyist swamp. And I went, that's funny. Just a day before, he'd used the term in Alabama and had been tweeting about it. Now, I didn't call up Donald Trump. I went with my own understanding of the fact that Trump has been draining the swamp. And so I shot the live report on Facebook, which we archived and then aired on the nightly news, where we break down the media hoax that Donald Trump is not draining the swamp. Then what did Donald Trump tweet this morning? Here's the headline from CNN again. Trump denies Gingrich claim that he's dropping drain the swamp. And Trump tweeted, someone, not attacking Gingrich, incorrectly stated that the phrase drain the swamp was no longer being used by me. Actually, we will always be using DTS or drain the swamp. Now, let's examine what Gingrich is saying on NPR and on Fox News constantly. That basically Trump just used a bunch of rhetoric to get elected. Don't worry, Republicans, he's establishment. Everything's going to be fine. Now, some people have made the point that, well, Trump's just trying to get in the next 28 days before they start a civil war or basically have the globalists try to assassinate him. He doesn't want riots at the inauguration, so he's playing possum until he gets in, and then he will go after Hillary Clinton for the crimes she's committed and fulfill his promises. I think there is some of that going on. In fact, I know there's some of that going on. He's advised by a lot of top generals that understand that when you're getting ready to restore the republic and the enemy's already panicking, you don't want to rub it in. You want them to just quietly fade off into the night like somebody slitting their wrists in a bathtub. We don't want to have a big aggravated disturbance here with the mainstream media that's in its death throes. But they know Trump's going in that direction. They know the American people are going in that direction. They know the whole world's waking up to globalism. So the playing possum angle, I believe, is not a smart angle for Trump to follow. I think it's good to try to be nice and conciliatory with olive branches towards the butthurt Democrats and their constituents. But when it comes to the globalist theoreticians and those coming up with stratagems, they're never going to back off. They are never going to pull back on what they're doing. They understand what Trump's doing. They understand globalism is in deep trouble. So again, yesterday I correctly told you that Gingrich is a disinformation operative, a known globalist of the Rockefellers and others. His rhetoric is good, but when the rubber meets the road, he is a known scammer. So they're saying Trump's going to drain the swamp because he's been convinced. Sir, they're pointing out you're hiring a bunch of Washington insiders. That's not draining the swamp. He needs to define draining the swamp, getting rid of the anti-gunners, getting rid of the people that want open borders, the globalist, standing up, and he already has hired no lobbyist. He followed the no lobbyist rule with the vice president heading that up, okay? Mike Pence. He's done it all. He's bringing in people that will follow nationalism. He's bringing in a new head of the EPA, who's the Attorney General of Oklahoma, who fought the carbon taxes and the whole climate change BS where they say that we don't believe in climate change. Of course there's climate change. It's not man-made. And taxing people to Al Gore and Lord Rothschild doesn't help people. And again, we were proven right less than 24 hours later by Donald Trump. Now, why did I know this? Because let's look at what he's actually doing. Draining the swamp isn't getting rid of everybody that was ever in banking or anybody that was ever in Washington. Draining the swamp means getting the globalists out that are signing us on to TPP, NAFTA, GATT, and all these one-sided trade deals that have deindustrialized our country. Draining the swamp means controlling our borders, reestablishing sovereignty, and kicking felons and aggravated felons like rapists and arsonists and armed robbers out of the country. Draining the swamp means vetoing anti-Second Amendment, anti-defense bills. Draining the swamp means standing up to ISIS and Al-Qaeda and not aiding them like Google and Facebook and Twitter and Hillary and Obama have publicly done the last 5 years, backing a Saudi Arabian global jihad to take over large parts of the Middle East, Central Asia, Africa, and now Europe. Draining the swamp is speaking out against Merkel, bringing in 2+ million illegals the last 3 years, 1 million in the last year, 80% that are military-age men who are attacking and shooting and stabbing and raping and running over people at Christmas events. And then our media asks, is this Islamic, and behaves like it's some lone criminal attack, like a Jack the Ripper or a killer famous cases with somebody like John Wayne Gacy, or the guy that liked to kill people up in Wisconsin and basically eat their bodies, Jeffrey Dahmer. This isn't lone psychopaths that are doing this. This is an organized criminal evil. That's draining the swamp. Draining the swamp is bringing choice to education so kids can get out of these dangerous public schools and have a chance to go to a charter school or a school that's outside of the centralized system of globalist brainwashing. Draining the swamp is the process of getting rid of U.S. attorneys and attorney generals and bureaucrats that haven't prosecuted fraud, waste, abuse, and other criminality in the federal government. Draining the swamp is putting in an attorney general like Senator Sessions, who has said he will go after Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation. Draining the swamp is putting people in positions in the government that have a track record of actually employing people and expanding and being successful. And that's what Trump is doing on every single front. He's already been delivering in the first 5 weeks since he was president-elect. It's still 26 days or so until he gets into office, and we've seen $50 billion from Japan. $10 billion being reinvested for steel. We're seeing carrier deals. Ford announcing multiple plants they're planning to keep here and pledging to bring them all back, again, if they just make the taxes competitive with other nations like China. Don't forget the $1 trillion+ added to the stock market and the fact that Gallup, in its 100-year history, reported yesterday the highest level of confidence in the economy ever recorded because of Trump saying it's okay to invest in America, it's okay to have prosperity, it's okay to bring back the American dream that made us the shining city on the hill and the apple of every immigrant's eye. Wanting to come here not because of freebies and welfare and globalism and race baiting, but because here, more than any other country in the world, like Italy or Nigeria or Japan or Russia or England or Mexico, you had a chance to have lower taxes and low regulations and to be left alone and not have big monopoly combines come in and shut down you and your family. Ladies and gentlemen, the key here is defining things. The globalist media is always defining things. What is the alt-right? Well, that's a Hillary definition. Opposition to Hillary was a lot bigger than just the right wing. There's a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters, anti-war people, you name it. It's the same thing here. They've defined having anybody formerly from the government, anybody who's in a position of power, anybody that's smart or successful as being the establishment. If we have that view, we're never going to drain the swamp. We need people that have been in the swamp alligator hunters, to go in there and help us clean this thing out as a guide. But draining the swamp is putting America first and not special interest. And of course, the biggest part of draining the swamp is getting rid of those special interests. And how do you do that? You do that by not hiring lobbyists, not hiring anybody who's been a lobbyist the last 5 years. Trump has done that. He has absolutely, for the first time in modern history, delivered on the promise that Bill Clinton and George W. Bush and Obama did not. They all kept breaking the record for bringing in lobbyists. Trump has followed through on that promise as well. In closing, Trump is trying to bring back a more level playing field. That's not protectionism like the Heritage Foundation and these fake libertarian Republican think tanks are saying. They've sold an idea of, quote, free trade that is a one-sided screw job for America. And that ends with Donald Trump, and that's why they're so scared. And the controlled corporate press and the neocon right that ran this country into the ground with the Democrats knows that Trump is for real. That's why they're crapping their pants and having a disgusting article come out in National Review titled, "Trump is already ditching his movement," claiming because he put people in there like Rex Tillerson, he's a globalist. Rex Tillerson was the main man behind the fight against carbon taxes until they almost removed him from the chairmanship of ExxonMobil in 2006. So he's been playing along. But now he's not playing along. I'll tell you who else isn't playing along. His other appointment, the former Attorney General of Oklahoma, who's been suing the federal government over carbon taxes and decrying it as a fraud. He's putting people in over the banking that have been anti-NAFTA, anti-GATT, and are pro-America. Stephen Bannon is formerly a mergers and acquisitions guy from Goldman Sachs. Where do you think you work when you're a top guy? But he's from the inside exposing the whole thing. This is the type of rogues breaking away from the globalists we need who can pilot this country and the world back to greatness. So no amount of lies from CNN, no amount of lies from Gingrich, no amount of lies from National Review that on its cover had all those fake conservative names like Glenn Beck and George Will saying you can't have Trump. They're now doubling back saying, aha, he sold you out, he's a globalist, and all of it is a fabricated lie. My fellow InfoWarriors, I am very excited to be able to announce to you the introduction at InfoWarsLife.com of a new way to save time and money when you stock up on InfoWars Life formulations like Survival Shield X2 and Super Male Vitality. Just go to InfoWarsLife.com today, select your favorite product, click on Auto Ship before adding to cart, and choose how often you want us to send you another order. Every time you choose Auto Ship at InfoWarsLife.com, you get 10% off and you won't have to worry about running out and having to reorder next time. And of course, you can cancel with one click anytime. As you know, I'm all about the idea of a 360 win, and the new auto ship feature at InfoWarsLife.com is a sure win for everybody. A win for liberty, a win for health, and a win when it comes to big savings. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today and save 10% on your next InfoWars Life order by selecting auto ship at checkout. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.